For decades, the world has seen Shu Qi as one of the brightest icons in the Chinese-speaking entertainment industry. A woman who rose from Hong Kong cinema to international prestige, walked the red carpets of Cannes, and eventually earned the Busan Award for Best Director for her film, Girls. But behind that reputation lies a far darker, far more complicated truth that audiences across China, Taiwan, and the global Chinese diaspora never fully understood. In her own words, Shu Qi revealed that she had no childhood. Not a single memory of being cared for by her parents. Only a childhood filled with punishment, blame, and the burden of doing everything alone. She grew up cooking her own meals, taking care of her own needs, and enduring a home where affection was absent and discipline was the only language she heard. Even more shocking is her admission that while she was beaten and blamed, her younger brother was never punished. If he broke something, she was the one scolded. And when she was 14, after a motorcycle crash, her father looked at the damaged bike before checking whether his daughter was alive. A moment so painful that she walked out of her home and never returned. That decision, made by a teenage girl with no money and no support, became the turning point that shaped everything that followed. The jobs she took, the loneliness she carried, and eventually the emotional depth that would define her entire acting career. To understand how a runaway child with no safety net became a Cannes, Berlin, Venice, and even Oscars juror, and one of Asia's most respected actresses, we have to peel back the 7 truths she never spoke publicly until now. These are the truths China never knew, and the truths that finally explain the woman behind the legend. Long before the world called her Shu Qi, before the red carpets of Cannes, and the prestige of serving as a juror for Berlin, Venice, and even the Oscars, she was a little girl living a life that almost no one in China would believe belonged to a future superstar. She revealed that she had no childhood, a statement that sounds dramatic until you understand what it actually meant. From the moment she was old enough to understand anything, she was already cooking her own meals, dressing herself, and handling chores. Normally meant for adults because there was no one else who would do it. She said she had no memories of being cared for by either parent, only of being beaten, blamed, and held responsible for everything, even things she didn't do. The most shocking detail came when she described how her younger brother was treated completely differently. He was never punished, never blamed. If he broke a cup, she was scolded. If something went wrong at home, she was hit. It wasn't discipline. It was displacement, a pattern she later realized came from her parents' youth and inexperience. Her mother, who gave birth at 18, had grown up caring for 7 to 9 siblings, repeating the only parenting style she knew. The oldest child carries the weight. Inside the house, Shu Qi lived like a trapped child. Outside, she became the strong, loud, confident big sister who led others, proving that trauma doesn't always show on the surface. She admitted she never formed childhood friendships, never kept in touch with classmates, because she left home so early and carried so much emotional distance that bonding felt impossible. This wasn't just an unhappy childhood. It was a lonely one, shaped by silent suffering that would later give her performances their emotional power. And it was only the beginning of a life that would soon take a dramatic, irreversible turn. The moment that pushed Shu Qi into the rest of her life did not come from destiny, talent, or opportunity. It came from a single night of chaos when she was just 14, a night she has described with unsettling clarity. After staying out until dawn, something a lonely, suffocated teenager might do simply to escape the tension of home, she got into a motorcycle accident on the way back. She wasn't seriously injured, but she returned shaken, exhausted, and convinced she would be punished the moment she stepped through the door. When her mother saw her, however, she simply checked her from head to toe, realized she was physically unharmed, and quietly told her to go to sleep. It was one of the rare moments of gentleness in her childhood, but that fragile peace shattered instantly when her father came home. Instead of asking whether his daughter was hurt or frightened, he grabbed her and demanded to know why the motorcycle, not the child, had been damaged. Shu Qi said she stood there realizing in real time that the machine mattered more than she did. And in that moment, she chose survival over obedience. She ran, not for a night, not for a few days, but permanently. She grabbed nothing, looked back at no one, and left her house without any intention of returning. What followed was a life of drifting, taking odd jobs, sleeping without certainty, and accepting that school was no longer an option. Yet she described those early runaway days as strangely happy, because she no longer had to fear being hit, blamed, or punished for things she didn't do. Even today, her relationship with her mother remains distant, neither hostile nor warm, simply shaped by years of misunderstanding and emotional gaps that never fully closed. That night did not break Shu Qi, it freed her. And the girl who walked into the world alone would soon become the woman who built an entire career out of resilience. After leaving home and building a life entirely on her own, Shu Qi did not enter the entertainment industry through glamorous auditions or elite art schools. Instead, her first real job was working in a video rental shop, a place where she spent long hours rewinding tapes, organizing shelves, and watching an endless stream of Hong Kong films. She had no idea that the movies she rented out every day would later become the world she stepped into. At that point, she wasn't dreaming of stardom. She wasn't even imagining survival beyond the next paycheck. Acting wasn't a goal, a plan, or even a fantasy. But life shifted when she later became a model, a job that started by chance and eventually led to photo books that caught the attention of Wang Jing, known in the industry as Jing Gore. He flew to Taiwan with producer Manfred Wong and director Andrew Lau, offering her the opportunity to move to Hong Kong and join an industry she barely understood. What makes this moment remarkable is how fearlessly she accepted. She was a young woman leaving her country, stepping into a city where she didn't speak the language fluently, surrounded by strangers who believed in her before she ever believed in herself. She learned Cantonese not from classes, but from watching old films every night after work and listening to news broadcasts until the words started to make sense. Within a year, she could speak it. Within 2 years, she became a rising name. And almost immediately, she did something unheard of. She landed both Best New Performer and Best Supporting Actress at the Hong Kong Film Awards. To go from homeless teenager to award-winning actress in such a short time is a transformation so unlikely that it feels cinematic. But for Shu Qi, this wasn't luck. It was the natural consequence of a girl who had been surviving her entire life, suddenly given a stage big enough to reveal what survival had taught her. As Shu Qi began navigating the competitive world of Hong Kong cinema, the people she worked with didn't just shape her career. They unknowingly became the emotional lifelines she never had growing up. One of the earliest turning points came with Viva Erotica, directed by Peter Chan and starring the legendary Leslie Cheung. She described how surreal it felt to stand beside someone of his stature, but what stayed with her was not his fame. It was his kindness. Leslie Cheung treated her with a level of respect, patience, and quiet protection she had never experienced as a child, and that gentleness left a deeper mark than any award she would later receive. Another career-shaping moment arrived when she worked with Mabel Chung on City of Glass. She remembered resisting a scene where she had to act flirtatious, insisting that no woman in her 40s behaves like that, only for Mabel Chung to demonstrate the gesture herself, softly, naturally, and with complete conviction. Decades later, Shu Qi laughed at her own stubbornness, admitting that now that she is in her 40s, she sometimes does act that way. It was one of the first times a director challenged not just her performance, but her beliefs about how women express emotion. Her work with Stephen Chow opened a different door entirely. On Journey to the West, Conquering the Demons, she discovered his unusual approach. He would chat with her about water, cups, tea, anything, just to pull out natural lines that he might later weave into the scene. She said the script she shot was completely different from the one she received because Stephen Chow insisted that the performance feel alive, unpredictable, and real. Then there were the brothers she found on set with Andrew Lau, Akin Cheng. and the filmmakers who shaped the era between 1990s Hong Kong and early 2000s Asian cinema. They weren't just colleagues, they were the first adults who made her feel genuinely seen, valued, and protected. Their support didn't just make her a better actress, it rebuilt parts of her emotional foundation, teaching her trust, patience, and empathy long before she would ever step into the director's chair. For many viewers, Shu Qi's performance in 3 Times, directed by Hou Xiaoxian, is one of the most hauntingly beautiful roles of her career. But what audiences never knew was how much it cost her emotionally. She revealed that shooting this film, especially the Free Love and A Time for Freedom segments, was so overwhelming that she slipped into a period of deep psychological exhaustion she later recognized as depression. Every day on set, she carried the weight of 3 different women across 3 different eras, all trapped in quiet, aching love stories that demanded an intensity far beyond ordinary acting. She said that when she put on the traditional costume for the A Time for Freedom chapter, she felt as if something was pressing on my chest, a heaviness that lingered not just during filming, but for 1 to 2 years afterward. It wasn't a cinematic metaphor. It was a physical burden she couldn't shake. And while the film ultimately won her the Best Leading Actress award at the 42nd Golden Horse Awards, the emotional toll was far greater than the public ever knew. She admitted that she wanted the award desperately, believing it would finally validate her after years of proving herself in an industry that often dismissed her early career. But the price of that performance was steep: isolation on set, relentless crying scenes, and total immersion in emotional pain that didn't disappear when the camera stopped rolling. What almost no one in the Chinese-speaking world realized is that Shu Qi never had the slightest intention of becoming a director. The shift that would eventually lead her to win the Busan Award for Best Director began not with ambition, but with a passing suggestion from Hou Xiaoxian. She remembered the moment vividly. They were drinking coffee when he casually told her, "Why don't you try directing?" She agreed without thinking, assuming he was just being polite, only to discover 2 years later that he was entirely serious. When he repeated the suggestion, she asked, stunned, "You really mean it?" And he told her he did. That single confirmation set her on a path she never expected to walk. She didn't know how to write a script, had never tried, and didn't know where to start. Hou Xiaoxian gave her one simple method: take a blank sheet of paper and write down every idea, memory, and image that came to mind. Then come back months later and stitch it into a story. That story eventually became Girls, a film loosely inspired by her past, but transformed into something larger. A message for anyone who grew up in violence, neglect, or emotional fear. She insisted that the film was not about retelling her life, but about exploring how people trapped in trauma can take the first step toward healing. Directing forced her to confront everything she had ignored as an actress. Instead of showing up to set, doing her scenes, and leaving, she was suddenly the first to arrive and the last to go home. She had to think about lighting, blocking, props, pacing, momentum, and the emotional temperature of every scene, all while pretending to stay calm, so the cast and crew wouldn't see how anxious she was. Even her husband, himself a director, teased her when she went scouting for locations. When she told him what she was doing, he simply smirked, as if to say, "Now you finally understand how hard this job is." And she did. Directing didn't elevate her, it humbled her. It stripped away every illusion she once had about filmmaking, and replaced it with respect for every person behind the camera. By the time Girls premiered, she was so nervous her hands went numb and her voice shook. She said she didn't even feel happy when she finished the film, only terrified because she knew the world was about to judge the most personal thing she had ever created. And yet, against every expectation, she won. This wasn't the triumph of someone who dreamed of directing. It was the victory of someone who stepped into fear, survived it, and came out the other side transformed. After a lifetime marked by instability, survival, and emotional wounds she never asked for, Shu Qi has quietly built a life that looks nothing like the world she came from. What makes her final truth so powerful is its simplicity. She has finally found peace. She has been married for 10 years to Chen Belen, a man she describes as gentle, patient, and able to accept the reality of being married to a woman who is constantly away from home. She joked that her cats treat her like a tenant because she disappears for weeks or months at a time, returning home only to be greeted with a half-interested look that says, "Oh, you're back?" But beneath the humor is a truth about the emotional stability she finally gained in adulthood. When asked whether she feels fulfilled now, she answered without hesitation. She is grateful because she now understands something she never understood as a child, that peace is a choice and happiness is a discipline. She said that no matter how angry or frustrated she may get, the day will still pass, so she chooses to spend her time working, resting, and moving forward instead of letting anger consume her. She even laughed at how her once explosive temper has softened with age. She no longer lashes out at people, but deals with irritation quietly on her own. And in a rare moment of reflection, she revealed something even deeper. She has never truly chased anything in life. She never pursued awards. She never planned a directing career. She never had a rigid dream board or a list of personal milestones. The only goal she ever had, winning Best Actress and Best New Performer, she achieved early, which allowed her to relax into a career defined not by ambition, but by instinct. Today, her only regret is artistic. She wishes she could re-edit her film Girls into the version she originally envisioned, unrestricted by time or production demands. And when asked what her most precious possession is, she didn't name an award, a script, a memory, or a trophy. She said the most important thing she has is herself. The woman who survived a loveless childhood, rebuilt a life out of nothing, and learned to value her own existence above everything else. That final truth may be the most surprising of all. After everything she endured, the person Shu Qi finally learned to love was Shu Qi. In the end, the 7 truths behind Shu Qi reveal a life that never fit the public narrative China once built around her. She wasn't a naturally blessed star who glided into fame. She was a runaway girl who survived a childhood without tenderness, carved her way into Hong Kong cinema, absorbed wisdom from legends like Leslie Cheung, Mabel Cheung, and Stephen Chow, pushed herself so deeply into roles like 3 times that it nearly broke her, and stepped into directing only because someone believed in her more than she believed in herself. These truths don't expose scandal. They expose resilience. They reveal how a woman shaped by silence, punishment, and emotional distance transformed that pain into artistry, professionalism, and the emotional clarity that defines her work today. And they show how, after decades of fighting, she finally built a life anchored by stability, gratitude, and a rare sense of peace. When she said that her most precious possession is herself, she wasn't being poetic. She was stating the core of her survival. Understanding Shu Qi means understanding a woman who refused to repeat the patterns she came from, a woman who grew stronger every time life tried to pull her under, and a woman who turned wounds into legacy. The real question now is this: what will the next chapter of Shu Qi look like? After everything she has overcome, after everything she has proven, what story will she choose to tell next? On screen, behind the camera, or in the quiet spaces of her own life? Whatever comes, one thing is clear. The world will be watching because now we finally understand the truth behind her light.